to 30 days of PM and our series where we talk about product management and all things related to the role of a product manager and what they do as their part of their job. So I'm Shagun, part of the Nonsense Labs team, and here we share all things related to product management and product marketing. So today the topic of discussion for our video is about PRDs. PRDs in essence are product requirement documentations and documents that you write when as a PM you want to get something done or built, right? So when you, for example, have, I think over the 30 days and over the last 27 days, we have covered various aspects of how PMs work with multiple stakeholders, understand the problems, and define solutions to solve for these problems, right? Keeping the business in mind, keeping all the other stakeholders in mind, and crafting the best solution possible and deliver value and increase the value offered by your product to begin with. So how do you eventually translate your vision into something, into the product, right, or a feature within the product? So how do you do that? Essentially writing is the main component here at hand, and writing for a PM is essential, where it's basically giving the requirements of what needs to be built and how it needs to be built, right? So as a PM you have to be very clear on what you're trying to build, trying to add within your product, and how that can add value. So for all the other stakeholders to also be aligned and be in sync with what you are actually proposing, you really need to understand what goes on when building these products, right? And what your engineering team needs to know in order to get started and get started with building your products. So you have to be very clear and precise within your writing, and PRDs are a way to structure that details in a document and provide it to your stakeholders that you will be dealing with internally, who will be eventually responsible for building your products. So PRD in essence is a document that provides details around the features, the details of the features, and what are essentially the criteria and other details and references your engineering and design teams need to know in order to build and deliver the product in essence, right? So that's the brief overview of what a PRD is. Looking at more examples, let's look at a few details on what actually is part of a PRD, and how we'll also look at a example of how you, for example, a PRD for a specific feature within a product looks like. But first let's cover what are the basic elements within a PRD. So here are a few elements, right? So a PRD is essentially used to define the product. So if, for example, let's take the example that we'll be referencing a while later in the upcoming time, but it is about how, for example, adding emojis and reactions within Twitter DMs would work. So think of yourself as a PM at Twitter or X currently, and you are responsible for engagement and communication within the platform, right? Probably comments, replies, quotes, tweets, retweets, and you also are responsible for the message inbox and inboxing behavior and the chat interface within Twitter, right? And but you see multiple tools, example Slack, Messenger, WhatsApp, and other tools having started the ability to react to an individual message, right? You can like, thumbs up, and provide your reactions in terms of emojis within, for example, a Slack message. You can add your custom emojis and things like that, and make it much more customizable within the platform that you're using, because a lot of the times you've seen the behavior of users evolve over time on how they use and communicate within chat interfaces, and reactions to messages is a great addition that you have been seeing in the recent past. So how do you build a feature, and how do you prioritize and write the details of how you want to build this feature of emoji reactions within Twitter, and what are the details required for it, right? Because for the reactions to be built, you probably need to have engineerings involved. You also need design team involved on how the reaction would actually look like, and where would we place it, and how the interaction would work logically behind the scenes. Can you add multiple reactions to an image, or do you not want to do that? And if it can be only one, what do you provide a select list, or do you allow any number of any emoji within the emoji catalog to be responded to an message, right? So these are a few things you want to probably clarify within a PRD. So that is where the PRD comes into place, right? You essentially define the product, you determine what you are trying to achieve after delivery of this product, probably move certain metric, probably increase engagement within DMs, or increase the number of messages sent and the number of reactions and the interaction within Twitter messages, and also identify and clarify what is in scope, what is out of scope, what are you actually making assumptions on based on your review and conversations with customers and conversations with other users and feedback and insight that you have received from the user base, and what are the constraints that you are dealing with, right? And it also is about limiting the scope of features on what is in scope, out of scope, as I mentioned, because a lot of the times you want to prevent a bigger scope item, right? Because as a scrum schedule where you incrementally provide enhancements and updates, you want to make incremental improvements and take things in small pieces and sizes and iterate accordingly based on the feedback that's coming in, right? It also is a place where you list down the features of what are the requirements and new features or existing features that need to be enhanced within the PRD. So you list down those, provide details about those. If you have UX mockups, backend and front end optimizations that you need to do, or introduce like a new component or a new API to handle this sort of data, you probably would want to create details for that within the PRD. Define the criteria of release. When do you want to release it? How do you want to release it? Is it like a phased approach? And the metrics that you want to track eventually out of this, right? So that's essentially how are the components and areas that you look at within a PRD. Let's look at one of those as we are talking, right? So this is from Manas's blog. He has posted a PRD template, or like a PRD on how it would look like to build emoji reactions on Twitter messages, right? So to begin with, they mention about how to read this doc and what are the components within this doc. So it contains on the status of where they are, it's ongoing, and it links to a rollout plan. It provides the quick links at the top of the document. So if you are looking at this document, you probably are, for example, a designer, you want to look at the front end tech spec, or the design tech spec. If you are like an engineering manager responsible for the back end side of things, you all you have is to look at the backend tech spec. And if you are part of the leadership team, you can just click on the pitch doc on why this feature needs to be delivered. And if you are QA, who is responsible for testing and rollout, you look at your QA plan. So at the top you have the topic, the title, the reason of what you're doing, the author, the date it was updated, the status, current status, quick links, and the contents, which is essentially details of what is covered within the document, and its content and topics and subtopics within that. You can probably have a section on minutes of meeting, on all the meetings that you have had for this feature and how you are trying to deliver this. It can be a hyperlink or within the same document. Probably try to categorize it in a separate document and link it here. And I explain, right? You start with the what is the feature, why you are building this feature, and it is part of, for example, your OKR or KRs, and how you're trying to make use of it, and the amount of users you're trying to reach out to and improve their experience within the platform. What are some metrics and details around that, how you came to this from your surveys and from your research on through product and customer discovery and customer journeys, and from the tickets, user feedback and other tickets that have been received, right? And you probably give also some reasoning for your leadership to look at, okay, this makes sense, I understand why you are trying to do, but why build this over other items, right? And out of all the things that you have on your list to prioritize, why this over anything else? So you probably want to provide details on that here, and get more information and insights on that. And then from here you can provide on the pre-launch data and the research you have done to build this feature, right? And the main user stories are part of the PRD, where you can, every organization has their own format of writing a PRD. In my organization we have a different layout. We probably want to cover the main user stories at the beginning with some quick links and references to background and why we are prioritizing this, and go with the main story, and then probably towards the end the rollout, the QA plan, and the other migration details if required, right? So this is one of the things that we want to look at. And the main user stories, right? Main user stories are specific story items. So if you consider an epic as your top level hierarchy of the feature, and the specific feature category is attached to an epic, the stories behind that are these main user stories, right? So consider a PRD as like an epic, and the main user stories and sub tickets that you assign to engineering to deliver to essentially complete this whole feature to be built out. So then you have main user stories, which are, for example, as a I would like to react to an emoji to a message sent to me, right? So for as a user, I want to be able to react to messages that are sent to me from other users, and I would like to send information about my reaction to the sender. I would like to ability to undo my reaction by clicking on it again, and the mechanism for that can be part of your design and front end spec. uh, and and positive negative emotions through the reactions feature. So probably it can be a series, select few emojis, or you probably want to also allow any custom emoji or any emoji can to be used as a reaction. The goals for this is to make the best in class feature, and as multiple customers and multiple users have requested, have competitive parity, so parity across the competition, such that it's easier and it's much familiar because users are already used to this sort of interaction in the chat interfaces. And the metrics to watch out for, right? So metrics is messages sent, unique messages, short-term retention of new Twitter users. Probably sometimes you don't really need to respond to a message, just having like a thumbs up is good enough. So probably you want to look at how if users are busy and they want to get things done and don't have the time to respond like a detailed message, or they can probably respond with the metric here or two. The other on the DACI, which is decision driver approvers, who are the contributors and who are informed about this feature, so provide details on that. So the decision is, we've decided to show only 7 emojis, so they have not decided to have like custom emojis and additional. The reason is driven through Manas. The approvers are his boss, the contributors who led to this decision, and who all are informed as part of this decision, right? The product requirements are the requirements, the individual items that need to be built up, and their priorities, right? So a lot of organizations probably put everything as a must have, and the should haves and could haves can be at the bottom, which is probably part of your Moscow. And you probably can, as your organization, can let engineering take that call, right? If they have the bandwidth to do all the requirements, and you, for example, need all the must haves and should haves to be part of uh, the the eventual feature, you take a look at that and build from there, and take action from there on, right? So these are a few requirements. All organization, as I told earlier, will have their own format of how they write this. In probably in someone's textbook, it might all be just must haves. I need all of these to deliver, because you have already prioritized what needs to be taken up. Or if you are much more flexible by giving your engineering options of what needs to be taken up and what needs to be not, and can be prioritized later on. Then the user flows are links to the mockups, and the non-product requirements, which are marketing, PR, and other sort of activities, and things that are out of scope. What is your rollout plan? How you want to test, A/B test as part of that, and details around open questions and feedback that you have received, and how the timelines of the checklist looks like, right? And eventually the minutes of meeting. So this essentially is how a typical sort of product requirement documentation looks like. You Every organization, as I've told, does it a similar way. This is the way Manas has done it, based on his experience as writing PRDs. They can be quite exhaustive, but a lot of organizations and PMs have also switched to having like a parent doc, which essentially converts into a PRD, and having sub requirements written down that can be referenced to engineering deliverable items, right? And the deliverable items will not really have all the detail, but this PRD is essentially your go-to place to reference and refer when you want to look at, okay, why are we actually building this? Just go back to the PRD document, and there you have all sort of context reference with all the MOMs that have been discussed, and probably an answer to your question can be delivered and be answered from the details documented within the PRD. So PRD is your guiding step and guiding stone of what is actually being built, why it is actually being built, and where we are in terms of our journey of executing the workflow, right? So engineering can come back and here and prioritize accordingly, schedule bandwidth accordingly, and make allotments of time for specific engineering teams to take up a specific feature currently or probably later down the road based on discussions with PMs and other stakeholders. So yeah, that's about it in terms of what a PRD looks like. But I'll link all these resources within our YouTube video description, and you can also follow us on Twitter for more such insights. You also have other details around the PRDs and how to write PRDs, because as I've told in also my tweet thread, is how you write your product spec is how your product is built, right? Every organization has their own structure and organization of how they build products. So that is where you want to go and customize and modify it accordingly according to your organization. But yeah, that's about it when it comes to PRDs. See you tomorrow on another topic related to product management and things a product manager does as part of their job. Till then, have a great day. Bye bye.